Ruth stood near the kitchen entrance, barely noticed in the middle of a lavish Nigerian wedding in Houston. Her navy blue dress was plain, her shoes old, her makeup non-existent. Around her, people laughed, danced, and toasted. Bright colors everywhere, cameras flashing, music loud. But Ruth, she just stood there, quiet, alone. Vivian, her sister-in-law, walked up without a smile. "You're not doing anything," she said, pushing a stack of dirty plates into Ruth's hands. "Just help in the kitchen. You're used to struggle." A few people nearby chuckled. Ruth didn't. She looked at her brother David, the father of the bride. He saw her. He said nothing. She carried the plates into the kitchen. Inside, it was warm and humid. Pots clanged. A fan buzzed in the corner. Ruth rolled up her sleeves and got to work. The soap was thick, the water lukewarm, her hands shaking, not just from the weight of the plates, but from what they were doing to her. The smallness, the dismissal, the shame of being treated like a servant at her own niece's wedding. No one had asked how she was. No one remembered who she used to be. But as she scrubbed, something inside her stirred. "They forgot who I was," she thought, eyes stinging. But I hadn't. Once a successful businesswoman in Abuja, Ruth left everything to marry her late husband, Jude. She ran a small import business back then, had 3 staff, an office space, her own car. She was independent, respected, solid. But when Jude asked her to move with him to Lagos and later to the US, she didn't think twice. She loved him. She believed they were building something bigger together. Then, one ordinary morning, he collapsed in the bathroom. Cardiac arrest. No warning. No goodbye. Just like that, everything fell apart. Jude's family turned on her almost instantly. The same people who used to call her our wife suddenly said she brought bad luck. They kicked her out of their family home in Lagos within a week, took his documents, blocked her from accessing his bank account. She left with nothing but a suitcase and her 8-year-old son, Emmanuel. She came to the US with a dependent visa. No job, no degree that transferred, no safety net. She started over, worked as a grocery cashier, then a caregiver, then part-time cleaning homes on the weekend. Anything to survive. No one helped. No one offered a hand. She didn't ask. Now she lives in a small 2-bedroom apartment on the south side of Houston. The place is clean but worn. She shares a room with Emmanuel, now 16, tall, quiet, and sharp-eyed. He's the kind of boy who never raises his voice, but notices everything. He walks her to the bus stop when it's dark, fixes her phone when it glitches. Sometimes she catches him looking at her like he's worried, like he knows she's carrying too much. Still, Ruth keeps her head down. She's used to being invisible now. In family gatherings, she sits in the corner. People act like she's not even there. Vivian, her sister-in-law, makes pointed comments about bad energy whenever Ruth enters a room. "Widows shouldn't be too loud," she once said at a family dinner. "It attracts more misfortune." Vivian had always been cold, but since Jude's death, she's become cruel in subtle ways. A smirk here, a dig there, always in front of others, always with a smile. David, Ruth's older brother, is no better. A local politician, more concerned about his public image than his own sister. He helps only when it benefits him. Last Christmas, he asked Ruth to cook for a party and then introduced her to guests as our family chef. She laughed politely, but later, in the bathroom, she cried. Then there's Chidinma, the bride. Ruth used to babysit her when she was still in diapers. She used to tie her hair, walk her to school. But now, Chidinma barely acknowledges her. At the wedding, she called her Auntie Ruth once, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, and moved on. Like Ruth was just someone her parents hired for help. The only person who sees her clearly is Uncle Felix, David and Ruth's uncle. He's in his 70s now, walks with a cane, mostly keeps to himself. But when he sees Ruth, he smiles. He asks how she's really doing, offers to pray with her. He remembers who she used to be, who she still is beneath all the layers of grief and silence. But no one listens to Uncle Felix anymore. Ruth swallows her pride every time, keeps her hurt locked up deep inside. Not for them, for Emmanuel. She doesn't want him to grow up bitter, doesn't want him to think kindness is weakness. So she says thank you when they insult her, smiles when she wants to scream, pretends not to notice when they talk over her. But every time she leaves another family event, something inside her chips away a little more. She walks home, carrying the weight of everything they've made her feel, like she's a ghost in her own story. But she's not. She's just waiting, quietly, for something to shift, Later that evening, Ruth quietly pulled Emmanuel aside. "Let's go," she whispered, avoiding the crowd. He looked up at her, surprised. "But the cake, I've seen enough," she said softly, forcing a smile. They slipped through the side of the reception hall, weaving between tipsy aunties and loud music. Ruth kept her head low, praying no one would call her back. Just as they reached the door, a girl's voice rang out, clear and sharp over the music. "She came dressed like she's serving, not celebrating." Laughter followed. Ruth didn't turn, didn't flinch, but Emmanuel did. His head snapped in their direction, his fists clenched. He started to turn back, but Ruth caught his hand. "No," she said quietly, "just walk." Outside, the air was cooler. The sky was heavy with night, and the parking lot lights buzzed overhead. They walked in silence until Emmanuel suddenly stopped beside the car. His voice shook. "Why do you let them talk to you like that?" Ruth paused. "Emmanuel—" "No, I'm serious," he snapped. "They treat you like garbage, like you're nothing, and you just let them." She opened her mouth, but the words wouldn't come. Not at first. Her throat tightened. Her chest ached in that old, familiar way. Then, slowly, she spoke. "Because I have no one else." He stared at her. "No husband," she continued, eyes on the pavement. "No savings, no house, no family who stands up for me. Not even your uncle, not your aunties. I'm just surviving, Emmanuel. They treat me like I'm invisible, and some days I feel like I am." The pain in her voice shocked even her. It came out raw, unfiltered. "I don't have the strength to fight anymore. Not when I'm already trying to stretch every dollar, every hour, just to get you through school, just to keep us afloat." Emmanuel looked at her, stunned, like he was seeing her clearly for the first time. Not as his strong mother, not as the woman who always kept it together, but as someone deeply, deeply tired. She turned away and unlocked the car door. That night, back in their apartment, Ruth couldn't sleep. The whispers from the wedding echoed in her head. "She came dressed like she's serving. You're used to struggle." She sat on the edge of her bed and reached for the small plastic storage box she kept under her closet. It held everything from her old life in Nigeria: documents, photos, receipts she hadn't had the heart to throw away. She dug through them slowly. A faded photograph of her and Jude outside their first shop, a flyer from their wedding, and then, at the bottom, something she didn't remember keeping: an original business registration document, yellowed at the edges but still legible. M. Jude, Property Limited, registered in Lagos, Nigeria. Directors, Jude O. Nwankwo and Ruth A. Nwankwo. Her fingers froze. She blinked and looked again. Her name was right there, clear as day. A property company. She and Jude had set it up years ago. He had said, "One day, this will take care of us." She had forgotten all about it. Heart pounding, she picked up her phone and called her oldest friend in Abuja, Kemi, a realtor who still worked in property. It was almost morning in Nigeria. "Kemi, it's Ruth. I need your help. Do you remember EMJUDE? There was a pause on the line. Then Kemi said, "Ruth, you're still listed on the land registry. That company never got dissolved." Ruth's breath caught. "The land it owns outside Gwarimpa," Kemi continued. "It's worth over 180 million naira now. That's over $250,000, Ruth." Ruth gripped the phone tighter. She couldn't speak, could barely breathe. "You're sitting on gold," Kemi said gently, "and it has your name on it." The call ended. Ruth sat in silence. For the first time in over a decade, she felt something she had forgotten existed. Hope. Not the kind you force yourself to believe in, but the real kind. The kind that tastes like air after drowning. She looked at Emmanuel, fast asleep on the couch, blanket pulled to his chin, his glasses still on. She smiled softly. Something had just shifted. She wasn't powerless. Not anymore. She was going to take her life back, quietly, completely. Ruth applied for a Nigerian lawyer. Quietly, carefully. She didn't tell anyone. Not her brother, not Vivian, not even Uncle Felix. Just Kemi, her old friend in Abuja, who helped her find someone reliable. A property lawyer with experience. A man named Barrister Ifeanyi Okoro. She sold her car the same week. It was old, dented, and barely passed inspection, but it brought in just enough to cover the initial legal fees. When she came home that evening, Emmanuel stood by the window, arms crossed. "You sold the car?" he asked. Not angry, just scared. She nodded, placing the folded receipt on the table. "For the lawyer," she said. Emmanuel stared at her. "But what if they scam you?" Ruth looked at him, really looked at his anxious face, his wide eyes trying to stay calm for her. Her voice was quiet but steady. "They've already taken everything from me, Emmanuel," she said. "I have nothing left to lose." He didn't say anything else. The next morning, she woke before sunrise, sat at the dining table with her documents spread in front of her. Old emails from Jude, the property registration certificate, scanned copies of tax records, even faded photos of her and Jude standing outside the land site in Abuja. She sent everything to Ifeanyi. By the third day, he called. "Madam Ruth, I have seen everything. This is solid, but be ready. His cousin, Tunde, will fight. They don't want you to win." "I'm ready," she said, and she meant it. She began to change, quietly at first. Her walk, her voice, her presence. It all felt different. She started wearing fitted blouses instead of oversized sweaters, combed her hair back with precision. Her eyes, once always searching the floor, now met people's stares directly. She turned down a cleaning job Vivian offered her. "I'm not available," she said, then ended the call. She skipped 2 family events. No explanations, just silence. The whispers started quickly. "She's acting strange. She thinks she's better than us now?" Widows and pride don't mix well. But Ruth didn't care anymore. She was preparing for battle. Then it came. A formal court document from Nigeria. Jude's cousin Tunde had filed an injunction to block her claim to the land. He claimed Ruth had abandoned the family, that she fled the country and had no right to anything, that the property should be handed over to Jude's next male relative. Ruth read the letter 3 times. She didn't flinch. The first remote court hearing was scheduled within 2 weeks. Ifeanyi said she would need to testify. "Be calm, be truthful, be strong," he told her. The night before the hearing, Ruth stood in her small bedroom, staring at herself in the mirror. She barely recognized the woman looking back, spine straighter, eyes sharper. Emmanuel walked in quietly. "You nervous?" he asked. "A little." He hesitated, then said, "I'm proud of you." Her voice softened. "You don't know how much I needed to hear that." The hearing was held over video call. Ruth borrowed a quiet office space from a church friend and logged in. Her face filled the screen. So did Tunde's, smirking, smug, surrounded by 2 loud lawyers. When it was her turn, Ruth didn't falter. She told her story, calmly, truthfully. She spoke about the business she and Jude started together, the land they bought, the paperwork that proved she was co-owner, how she was thrown out after Jude's death, how no one lifted a finger for her. She didn't cry, didn't shout. She didn't need to. Even through a screen, her pain was visible, her dignity louder than any argument. That night, as she and Emmanuel sat at the table eating yam and egg sauce, he placed a letter in front of her. "What's this?" she asked. He shrugged. "I got into the STEM program, the summer one, the one in California." Her eyes widened. "Emmanuel," he smiled, but then said, "I'm not going. You need me." She froze. "What? You're fighting them. You shouldn't be alone." Ruth reached across the table and took his hand. "Listen to me," she said. "You must go. This fight, I started it alone. I can finish it. You are the reason I'm doing this, to give you a better life. Don't stay back because of me." He didn't speak for a long time. Then he whispered, "Okay." That night, after he slept, Ruth sat alone in the living room. The court case was far from over. Tunde's lawyers were powerful. She had no guarantee she'd win, but something inside her had shifted. She was no longer surviving. She was reclaiming. Ruth wins the case. The property is hers. Every square foot. The judge's ruling is clear. The business registration held legal weight, and Ruth's name on the deed makes her co-owner of not just the land, but the company itself. The estimated value? Over $300,000. She stares at the email from her lawyer. The numbers mean little in that moment. What matters more is the justice. The fact that someone believed her. That all those years of being dismissed, ignored, insulted, they didn't erase her worth. She doesn't sell. Instead, Ruth revives JER Properties, the company she and Jude had once dreamed about. But this time, it's hers, rebuilt with new vision. She registers it officially in both Nigeria and the US, and she makes her first bold move, hiring a CEO. Not just anyone. She chooses Adaora, a sharp, ambitious 29-year-old Nigerian woman who grew up in the kind of Lagos neighborhood people try to forget. Adaora knows the real estate game, but more importantly, she understands women like Ruth, women who've been told they're finished after loss. "We're going to make this a platform," Ruth says to her. not just to sell land, but to help widows, women kicked out of their homes, women like me. Adaora nods. Let's build it. And they do. In under a year, Jia Properties transforms into a boutique real estate consulting firm, specializing in helping displaced women reclaim ownership, track hidden properties, and fight for what's theirs in the Nigerian legal system. Ruth funds the foundation quietly, no press, no noise. She continues her quiet life in Houston, keeps working part-time, keeps showing up like nothing changed. She tells no one in the family, until the invitation comes, Chidinma and Leo's one-year wedding anniversary dinner. Ruth receives it in the mail, thick cream paper with gold foil, as if time had melted away the insults from that kitchen door a year ago. She smiles when she reads it, then folds it once and places it gently on her desk. She RSVPs. Yes. The night of the dinner, guests fill the house again. Same neighborhood, same crowd, same cousins whispering about who's gained weight or lost their job. Vivian floats between groups in a lavender okay, her usual smug smile glued to her face. David holds court in the living room, boasting about a new endorsement deal. Everyone's laughing until headlights flash across the window. A sleek black Mercedes pulls into the driveway. The door opens and Ruth steps out. Her gown is deep emerald silk, perfectly tailored. Her hair is styled into a soft updo. Gold earrings shimmer beneath the lights. She walks slowly, calmly, like she belongs. She steps inside. The room goes quiet. Chidinma blinks twice, trying to place the woman before her. Vivian is the first to speak. "Where's your son?" she asks sharp. Ruth smiles gently. "In the UK. He got a robotics scholarship. Top program. I told him not to come back till he builds me something I can retire on." A couple cousins chuckle. Nervously, Vivian swallows hard. David coughs into his glass. But Ruth's not done. Midway through the evening, just before the toast, she reaches into her clutch and pulls out a black velvet envelope. "Chidinma," she says, standing. The room turns. Ruth walks over and places the envelope into her niece's hands. "A small housewarming gift. It's just one of the leftover properties from my company. Thought I'd share, since we're family." Chidinma opens it. Inside is a clean white title deed. Her name is printed across the top. Dead silence. Chidinma's eyes fill with tears, but not from joy, from shame. A year ago, this same aunt was washing dishes, ridiculed and discarded. Now she's giving real estate as party favors. David looks stunned. Vivian's face drains of color. Ruth doesn't wait for applause. She simply returns to her seat, lifts her glass of water, and sips. She has nothing left to prove. Vivian tries to talk to Ruth in the kitchen. Same position, the same smell of jollof rice in the air, the same hum of family laughter echoing faintly from the living room. Vivian closes the door gently. "Ruth, can we talk?" Ruth doesn't flinch. She stands calmly by the counter, her fingers resting lightly on the edge of a glass. "I never meant to hurt you," Vivian says, her voice lower than usual. Ruth turns slowly, looks her in the eye. "But you did." Vivian looks down, embarrassed. "I didn't know you were going through so much. I thought you were just stuck. I didn't mean to make you feel small." Ruth's voice is calm but firm. "You didn't need to know the details to be kind. You only see me now that I have something again. But back then, when I had nothing, you treated me like I was nothing." Vivian starts to stammer, but Ruth stops her with a gentle raise of the hand. "I'm not here to fight, Vivian. I'm just done being invisible." A long silence. Then Ruth adds softly, "And for what it's worth, I hope you never feel what that kind of silence does to a woman." She walks past her, slow and steady. There's no anger in her steps, only clarity. Outside, a few people try to stop her to talk. She smiles politely, excuses herself. No dramatics, no need to prove anything anymore. She steps into the Mercedes, starts the engine, and drives home under the quiet Houston night. Back at home, her apartment is still small, still modest, but everything inside feels different now. She walks into the living room, takes off her shoes, and sits on the couch. On the table, there's a framed photo of Jude, the one from their early days in Abuja, when she still wore suits to meetings, and he carried her laptop bag like it was made of gold. Ruth picks up the photo. Her fingers brush the glass. "I finally remembered who I was," she whispers. "Thank you for leaving the door open." A quiet tear slips down her cheek, but there's no sadness in it. Just release, peace. 1 week later, Nigeria, the new JER Properties office opens in Abuja. Adaora stands in front of the new sign, surrounded by a team of young professionals, lawyers, architects, and field officers, many of them women. Ruth attends via video call. Her face glows on the screen, calm, in control. "Let's help every woman who was ever told she had nothing," she says to the team, "because we are never nothing. We just forget sometimes." And with that, a new chapter begins. Not just for Ruth, but for every woman who's ever been written off, laughed at, pushed aside. She didn't need revenge. She built a legacy instead. Emmanuel's face lights up the screen, grinning from ear to ear. Behind him is a crowded lecture hall, and in his hand, a crisp, white certificate. "Top of the class," he says, out of breath from excitement. "They said it at the ceremony. I couldn't believe it." Ruth covers her mouth, tears slipping quietly down her cheeks. "I can," she whispers. He laughs. "Mom, I did it." She nods, voice thick with emotion. "You did. We both did." There's a pause, a silence filled with love, pride, and everything they've fought through. "They called me a widow like it was a curse," Ruth says softly. "But I carried life with me. I never stopped building." She waves goodbye as he turns the phone toward a crowd of cheering students. Then she ends the call and just sits there, still. The evening light pours through her small window, painting gold across the wall. Outside, a breeze stirs the trees. Inside, Ruth exhales deeply, a sound of relief, of quiet victory, of a woman finally standing in her full strength. She closes her eyes. Peace, at last. She didn't just survive. She reclaimed her name. Never let grief or shame make you forget who you are. People may bury your worth beneath their opinions, but if you rise, slowly, silently, the world will make room for your return. If this story touched your heart, don't scroll away. Like, share, and subscribe for more emotional, powerful stories that speak truth and healing. Watch the next video. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching.